And you'll have to bear with a little coughing. So welcome one and all. Let me just check if this is living live stream.
All right, there we go.
Okay. Yep, it's live stream.
Hey, Tom, this may have been in the email, but when do we vote?
I think that we decide that tonight, Stephen. Because the ballots go out to everybody via email, usually with Stonewall, and then you have a couple of days to vote. But I think it was on the agenda to decide tonight when that time frame is.
Yeah, thanks so much. All right, folks, so welcome. Sorry, I had to stop something in the background. Yeah, that is on the agenda, but we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome one and all. Let me go ahead and get the agenda up. Share over here. So we have a quorum, Secretary.
Let's see. I'm copying the agenda to a Word file so I can take notes. We have.
I do believe we do.
Yeah, we have a quorum. We have a quorum.
Yeah. All right. So, John, can I get you to read the land acknowledgement?
Dinner. Hold on.
Voila.
Yes. Okay. Give me just a sec. All right. Land acknowledgement. We pause to acknowledge the Stonewall Democratic Club of Solano County sits on the land of the Miwok and Patwin people. We remember their continued connection to this region and give thanks to them for allowing us to live, work, learn, and pray in their traditional homeland. We offer our respect to their elders and the Miwok and Patwin people of the past and present.
Right, so thank you so much. And now we'll go on to the Pledge of Allegiance, which is optional, but so join me if you want. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Someday.
Someday. All right. Moving ahead. Welcome everyone. I want to recognize Monica Brown, Supervisor Monica Brown here. John Fox for Vallejo Unified School District. I also want to recognize Anna Patero for Fairfield Sassoon. And then the chair of our own Solano County Democratic Central Committee, Don Lowry, newly elected. And I'm not sure, are there any other elected officials? And then candidates for office, we have Terry Scott and George Kennedy. And I think that's all right there. And then we have a few people on for ballot initiatives. Andrea Source, and I believe Katie Meissner is going to join us as well. So moving forward, approval of the agenda. Do we need to change or rather move anything? We only got one item for tonight.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Okay.
I'm sorry, who was that? I had
Paula.
you covered up.
Second.
Paula Bauer and John
Okay.
Fox for a second. Thank
Paula
you.
and John said.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Okay, unanimous.
All right, there we go. All right, now we'll move on to guest speakers. So let's see.
Excuse me, Tom,
Okay.
were we supposed to approve the minutes?
They're after the guest speakers.
Oh, okay, I see.
Sure. So right now we have, in order of appearance, Terry Scott, and then it was George Kennedy, and then Andrea Source. And if anyone else wants to speak, please put your name in chat. This is for a guest speaker representing being a candidate or a ballot measure, a position on a ballot measure. So, John, I asked you if you'll call on them, because I am like having a coughing fit and need to not be on here.
Are all three ready? Terry, are you ready first?
Yes, I actually didn't expect that I was going to be a speaker, so I'd like to speak to Measure R if I could, which is the sales tax measure in Benicia. I think a number of you who have come through our beautiful city enjoy the wonderful waterfront, enjoy our wonderful main, enjoy our wonderful First Street. But then you start to go into the arterial roads and you find that they're basically gravel. And for the last 10, 12 years, we have basically neglected to do any of the road maintenance and deferred and continued to kick the can until, unfortunately, you know, as the cliche goes, there's no more can or any more road to kick down. And so the city council has decided to move forward with Measure R, which is actually a regular general fund tax. We realized, the city realized that they were not going to be able to do a special tax, which would require 67% of the voters' approval. So by going through as a general tax, if we got the 50% and 1% or one vote, we would be able to then pass this. The issue has always been, how do we put a fence around this to ensure that the money gets put towards roads? But at this point, I'm advocating for the road tax. There's a number of folks who are in the political community who look at the road tax and they say it's $5 million, $4.6 million, somewhere around there. And that we can find fat within our budget of $46 million. I find that unacceptable. I find that as an insult to the staff. I find that an insult to the council members. If there were $4.6 million laying around every year for the next 10 years, then we have some serious financial problems, even more than we have recently uncovered. So the advocation is for moving forward with the sales tax, to fence the tax off in December or January of next year, ensure that we create an advisory committee that watches that the money is spent on behalf of the road tax, and it's 0.75%. So if you annualize based on the median income of a resident within the community, it's really a small amount, but added up, when cars are purchased and tourists come in and the bars and the restaurants with their sales tax their sales tax funds, well, it really can add up. We need to get our hands around the roads. If we don't, they're going to continue to deteriorate to a point where it's going to cost well beyond $4.6 million to repair them. So I'm advocating for those who are in Benicia to please consider moving forward with voting favorably on Measure R, the sales tax increase.
Any questions or comments? Stephen.
Thank you, John. Terry, and I see that Carrie just got on, so Carrie may know the answer to this. But Benicia's other 1-cent sales tax, doesn't the city of Benicia do regularly reports on that as to where the money's going and what it was spent on and such for the public to see?
There is an accounting of Measure C taxes, and we find that as the latest one was reviewed a couple of months ago, maybe 2-3 months ago, right before the sales tax discussion, we saw that the increased cost of operations is really hurting the ability to devote money to the sales tax. So yes, there is regular review of Measure C funds and how they're spent.
Through the chair, this is Carrie Birds. I'm sorry, I'm on my phone, but I just have one little thing to add to that. And through the quarterly presentations that city staff gives city council on how the Measure C funds are being spent, we've been able to ensure that they're being spent as intended, and that's a good thing. We've done great things with those funds, and it's all where we said we were going to put it when we put it on the ballot. So ensuring some of it's gone to roads, some of it's gone to our city infrastructure, some of it's gone to ensuring that we have a safe and healthy wastewater treatment plant. So all of that is good news, but like Terry said, it's not going to help us get our roads where we need them to be.
Okay, I'm
Thank you,
back,
Carrie.
John.
Carrie, were you talking about the oversight committee that's overwatching, that's doing a great job? Is that what you were referring to?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
In addition to that, just to add one more level, that one of the suggestions that I think has been bounced around is that in order to ensure that the money from this road tax, additional funding from the road tax, is spent on behalf of the roads, that there would be additional citizen oversight to ensure that those dollars are being spent on behalf of the roads.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for Terry?
So Carrie Birdseye, did you want to speak to Measure, is it K?
Sure, I'll keep it short and sweet. I support Measure K because the urban growth boundary has worked for the last 20 years, and we're going to need it for the next 20 years. We have, through updating our housing element, we've realized that we have over 1,000 parcels available for infill to bring more housing, affordable and otherwise, to Benicia. So there's no reason for us to sprawl out beyond our city limits now. So that's why I'm voting for Measure K. As climate change impacts our community, it's we're going to need as much ag land and open space and biodiversity, areas where biodiversity can thrive. And that's what's happening on those open spaces now. So yeah, I support Measure K.
And just to add to what Carrie noted, I too support Measure K. I am concerned every time I drive out there on Reservoir Avenue on Lake Herman Road and see that huge solar farm and the lack of commitment that the builder had for fencing and for landscaping, etc. I don't want to see that any further, and I believe that Measure K will continue to be able to keep that land preserved the way it is for agriculture and for, as Carrie pointed out, defeat any kind of opportunity for urban sprawl out there. Last thing I want to see is a Trader Joe's or a Best Buy out there.
David, your hand is up.
Carrie and Terry, could you just elaborate on what exactly an urban limit line is?
Oh, basically the urban growth boundary line is our city limits that go around through Lake Herman, and then they end up around Sky Valley. I think that might be a little further, and then come back around. It just it is a line drawn as a boundary of basically the municipal property in the incorporated area. I think Carrie can probably articulate that better.
No, that was fine. I just was going to add, that means that we can't put additional infrastructure out there. We can't build roads. We can't put sewer and water out there. It will remain open space without the city infrastructure needed for development.
See, I told you she could do it better.
All right, thank you both. Next up, is there anything else for Benicia R or K? Thank you, Terry, and thank you, Carrie. Let's move on to George. George, are you ready?
I am ready. How's everybody doing tonight? Hopefully,
Good evening.
Good.
thank you for inviting me tonight to speak. As Thomas said, my name is George Kennedy, and I'm running for Fairfield City Council, District 1, which is Cordelia, Green Valley, and the eastern areas in southern Fairfield. I've called Fairfield my home down here for over 30 years. I'm an active member of my community. I'm a Democrat. I'm particularly adamant about improving the quality of life, not just for our youth, but creating a healthier Fairfield for all. I've been very active in getting the Cordelia Tri-Valley Little League fields built many years ago, as well as Cordelia Community Park. In the last few months, I've been working on getting some revamping of parts of Allenwood Park in downtown Fairfield. Was including getting 16 new pickleball courts, 3 redone tennis courts, and a futsal court. We opened that about a week and a half ago. And from the time I started on the project last November with the city, we were actually able to get this done in the current budget cycle, spending almost $400,000 and getting it built in under 9 months. And I'm really excited about that. So what I do is I pride myself on being a problem solver, not so much a great politician, but being a problem solver. And this was an area that Solano County has, and Fairfield in particular, is short on parks, and we need more parks. We need to get people healthier, get people out and about. And so that's what I've been doing lately. I've been appointed by several mayors to different committees. Most recently, I was chairman of the Budget Advisory Committee for Fairfield, and we advise the council on expenditures, revenues, and fiscal policies. And it is available on the city's website and the recommendations we made. I'm also on the board of directors for the Solano County Fairgrounds. Some of the issues we'll be tackling in the first district that directly affect the district itself is traffic. We have some very large choke points here. Transparency and accountability from the city is very important. Job creation, so we can create jobs here instead of our citizens having to travel as far as 2-3 hours away. If we can create those jobs here, we can get more cars off the streets, off the highways, and save some of those greenhouse gases from getting out into the environment. Protecting Travis Air Force Base, protecting Suisun Valley from development. We've got to promote this great treasure and not take it away. I know earlier talking about an urban limit line for Benicia. Fairfield's sunsetted a couple of years ago, and I would, when I get on the council, support bringing that vote back to the people. I think the people should have a right to vote whether they want their urban limit lines expanded or not. And it shouldn't be just a half a dozen people on the council deciding that, but that is something using the true democratic process of letting the people decide whether or not we expand those lines. We've got to be good neighbors. We've got to help our farmers farm the land.
Time.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. So I want a city that knows pride for everybody, and that literally means everybody. And I live it and want to make Fairfield a better place for everybody. Thanks.
Thanks. And repeat again which district here.
District 1.
All right. Thank you, George. Any questions for George?
I do.
Paula?
So there's a proposal for a couple hundred new homes. I think that would be, if not in your district, close to your district. Do you have a position on that or an opinion on?
You know, it's not in the district. It's actually in the county. It's out in Middle Green Valley. And it's about
Right. Right.
And having Fairfield just treat the water. It's not about sewage. It's just about treating water from the Solano Irrigation District. I think Vallejo was wanting to provide the water because they provide a lot of the water out there now. And Sassoon Irrigation District came to Fairfield to have Fairfield bring that water instead of Vallejo, because Vallejo's water into that area is, for many houses, hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month. Some houses actually have a water bill close to their mortgage payment. And I'm about making sure that everybody has a fair shot at healthy water. And I grew up over in Sonoma County, and I was born on a ranch, and we had bad water. There were times we couldn't get water out of our wells, and if we did, it was often orange. And so I grew up with that, and I don't want to see anybody else have a situation where they might have unhealthy water to drink. It's about health. I don't want Fairfield to be known as the Flint, Michigan of California, that we denied that. So the city council of Fairfield's already decided that measure, so it's nothing that the city would be able to take back now. They voted, I believe, 6-1 at their last meeting to approve that. And I didn't speak on the issue, to be honest with you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Any questions?
Not seeing any.
Well, thank you, George. Appreciate you being here.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you.
sure. And now we're going to move on.
You're muted, John.
Oh, sorry. Again, thank you, George. Thank you, Anna. Andrea, are you ready? Our next speaker.
I am. Thanks. I'm
Thank
glad
you.
it wasn't my sound.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Hi, everyone. I am Andrea Source. I have met most of you all, but for those who don't know me, I live in Vallejo. I am part of the Glen Cove Community Association. I serve on the Surveillance Advisory Board for the City of Vallejo. I've been pretty active at council meetings and with our local ACLU chapter, and my day job is as an economics professor. And I am here with that hat on, and also as representative for the No on Measure P group. There's a coalition of us in Vallejo that are asking for no votes on this tax measure. And the first reason why we oppose Measure P, and my personal reason really for opposing just about all sales tax increases, is that it's regressive. Sales taxes are regressive. They burden those with low incomes. They burden our most vulnerable. And that, what it means for a tax to be regressive is that it's those with lower incomes are paying a greater portion of their income because they spend a greater portion of their money. We can exempt at the state level, we can exempt food and other things, but at the end of the day, clothes, prepared food, things like that. This is just going to burden our most vulnerable. And that's not even accounting for concerns about inflation and cost of living and the real economic anxieties that people are facing right now coming off of COVID. There are other ways to raise revenue that aren't regressive. And I want to emphasize that because that'll be important. Vallejo's current sales tax is 8.375%. This is a 7/8 cent tax, which is huge. It's almost as big as Measure B, which was what got us out of bankruptcy back in 2011. It's larger than Measure G, which failed last election. It would bring us up to 9.25%, over 9% sales tax. It would be the highest tax in the county. It would be highest amongst our peer cities. We may even have the county sales tax measure stacked on that, which would elevate us up a full %. It would hurt our small businesses. It would drive our consumers to spend elsewhere or to spend less. And again, that regressive nature just is not worth it. There's also the question of where the money will go. So proponents of Measure P like to tout a lot of wishful thinking. That sounds great. Priorities like road repair, housing, youth programs, public safety, but this is a general tax. It's going to go into the general fund. It's going to get allocated into the overall budget, and it's not going to be separated in any way. which is why our ballot argument against Measure P focused on the fiscal irresponsibility of the city of Vallejo. For the past several years, we've seen wasteful spending left and right, racking up tens of millions of dollars in legal liabilities and really no accountability. And rather than answer the demands for accountability, the city is just asking taxpayers to bail them out. We identified about $25 million in wasteful spending over the past few years. I'm not going to list it all now, but I'm happy to talk about the things like the purchase of the 400 Mile Away, the money we're paying back to HUD, the staff raises, et cetera. So we had that $25 million. We also just got $26 million in American Rescue Plan funds that are disappearing. We can't trust our city leaders with this money. We need to get their trust first before we start trying to give them more money. These are all decisions by city management that just wasted these funds. Giving them more tax dollars is going to disincentivize them from actually doing the hard work and cleaning house. And there is, proponents of this measure like to tout that there's going to be an oversight committee on the tax. I want to emphasize, like, loud and clear, that oversight committee is not going to be worth anything. This money is going into the general fund. You can't have an oversight body that is already has no teeth and can be overruled by council. You can't have that oversight body oversee just a part of a budget, just 7/8% of the budget. It doesn't work that way. I explain it to people. I say, imagine somebody tries to give you $100 and say, you have to spend it on gas, not booze. So I go, yeah, thank you for the $100. I'm going to go spend it on gas. And then I take the money I would have spent on gas and just spend that on booze. So you can't have an oversight of just part of a budget.
Please start to finish up.
It's turning into a slush fund. Was that time?
Please start to finish up.
Yeah. Well, that's basically the point, the wasteful spending. And we all have a lot of priorities. We want to see housing, economic justice, and police reform, our democratic ideals. If we want to move the city forward, the right move is to vote no on Measure P. We got to stop enabling the people that are wasting our tax dollars, get our finances in order. And then once we curb the wasteful spending, we can have a conversation about whether or not we need more revenue and the best, most effective way to raise that revenue. So happy to answer questions. No on P. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you for being here. And who has questions or comments?
Oh, thanks for the kind words.
Chat, I see some, but I don't. Does anyone have anything to say? Stephen.
So, Andrea, would you support a sales tax if it were a specific tax and dedicated where the money would go from the outset?
That's a really good question. It would depend. I personally am reluctant to support any sales tax increase just because of the regressive nature. What I mentioned earlier, I would need to see a picture of our city's fiscal situation and assurance that we really have no other option than to raise the tax rate. And then, yeah, if it was a special tax, I think it would be easier to justify. But again, we're still running into that regressive issue. And I would encourage us to explore other ways to raise revenue that would be a little more equitable for the people. Also, these taxes, it's like a ratchet. You raise sales taxes, you never lower it. So with great power comes great responsibility. I mean, once you raise the sales tax, it's never coming back down, and it's a percentage. So we're pushing 10%. It's never coming lower than that. We don't get a second shot at this. We got to make sure if we do it, we better be sure it's our only option.
Next, we have Joseph and then Calvin.
Hi, Andrea. Good to see you again. So you did mention other revenue streams. I am very interested in it, and I agree this is regressive, and it'll never come down. I remember the BART tax years, decades ago, and people are still paying for that. So what were the other income streams you would recommend in a perfect world?
Yeah, I've heard people talk. We haven't had those conversations in full. I'd like to have them. I've heard people talk about transfer taxes for transfers of property. I've heard people talk about vacancy taxes for vacant properties downtown, or parcel taxes for vacant parcels. Other ways, maybe being more consistent in how we enforce our fees, how we enforce our code enforcement on some of our bigger, not using our code enforcement to criminalize unhoused people, but using it to actually, collect the fines from, developers or people that aren't doing what they're supposed to do with their land. I think there are big conversations that can be had where we really talk about those options. There are states that don't have sales tax. Oregon doesn't have sales tax. New Hampshire doesn't have sales tax. So let's look at those local governments. Let's look at some cities our size and see how they raise their revenue and think about, okay, what can we do here in Vallejo that would be a good fit for us?
Thank you.
Monica.
But you need to look at their property tax. So I just wanted to throw that out. So.
Anyone else? Thank you, Andrea.
Yeah, thank you all for
Being here
having me.
tonight. And we're going to move on to our next. So you're Carrie. Carrie is next, and then Monica, if you would please speak to after that on E, Measure E. Carrie, are you there? Oh, Calvin too.
Excuse
Yes.
me, John, I'm sorry. I thought there was going to be a speaker between Andrea and myself.
Yes, I think it's Carrie, and then Carrie, then you, and then Monica. Yes. Thank you, Calvin.
Hey, through the chair, John, are you saying Carrie Birdseye's next?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm just now pulling up to my house. And so if we could let Calvin go first, that I can get.
Of course.
Thank you.
Go for it, Calvin.
Good evening, folks, and thanks for having me. You know, I'm hearing a lot of commentary that tends to not take into account the reality of our condition. There's no question that we need to challenge and question how funds are used, how there might be waste and that sort of thing. But at the forefront, all taxes are regressive. I'm not sure how we get to the idea that taxes, even this tax, only affect the most challenged, or the greatest effect is on the most challenged. The most challenged don't have the resources to purchase items that generate significant sales tax revenue anyway. The most challenged aren't the ones that are going to leave the area or leave town to go shopping. They shop locally. And while that's a challenge, the real thing is that people that have the resources will go out of town and shop because they currently do it in locations that have sales tax rates that are significantly higher than the proposed sales tax rate that is on the ballot for this year. Vallejo should not be compared to other cities in the county of Solano. This is an albatross in this county. It has been the stepchild ever since Mare Island closed. And the reality is, Mare Island closed, who was affected in the county north of us in any way similar to what Vallejo has suffered over those many years? We don't have an industry. There's places that have the wine industry and other types of industry. We don't have those. We have a lot of small businesses, a lot of coffee shops and other types of industry that their gross sales seldom reach $500,000. So we're in a situation where we don't have the resources or the industry to provide the tax base that we need. The idea of postponing any type of movement on taxes on the basis of we need to study another program, be it transfer taxes, be it this tax and that tax, all of those are fine, but there's no guarantee that you're going to have revenue from that. Now, it was stated that the income from this tax or the revenue generation would be approximately 18 million. Even if we slice that in half, the number is easy to extrapolate based on current sales tax revenue and add the 0.875 or whatever the specific is to it, and you know what the differential is, and you know what the total amount of revenue generated will be. Even if you generated only 9 million, at the end of the day, the question that comes to mind for me is very simple. Where can we find $9 million in cuts and savings? Let's not talk about the police issues or the liabilities. We can't get out of that. That was not created by people downtown. That was incidents created by officers on the street. Let's not put that out there. It's not making sense. We elect people who we believe have the competence to do the job as we as the citizens desire. Is there some reason that we are not going to give those people the charge of making sure that this money is spent appropriately?
Yes.
We should, all of us should just not even vote if we're not willing to say, you're my elected representative, we're putting you in here. This is the mandate that we have as a citizen group. You need to come aboard and make sure that this happens. I appreciate the commentary that we can't track or we can't control the general budget once it's in the general budget. I dispute that. I think that there's a lot that can be done. I think the city council has final say on how the budget is managed. Or at least the big picture budget is managed. They allocate and they restrict. So we have to give the people that we elect that type of respect, and not only respect, but responsibility. So my position is on Measure P, where do we find $9 million, since we're gonna, if I'm gonna cut it in half, in revenue through savings or other means, in short order. This particular proposal means that once it passes, within the next year, we will have that $9 million that could be allocated towards the specific things that we as a citizen group would desire. I'm voting yes on P, and I certainly hope you can understand the position I take from a fiscal perspective. It's not about so-and-so is doing a bad job. That's not relevant in this equation. Thank you.
Calvin, are there comments or questions for Calvin? Stephen?
Hi, Calvin. Gosh, I don't think I've seen you since COVID.
Probably not.
I think the last time I saw you was at the Glen Cove Safeway, right
I
before
hope I've lost weight.
I hope I have too. If this sales tax does not pass, would you support an effort via citizen initiative to put a special or restricted tax on the ballot? And since it's a citizen initiative, it'll only take 50% plus one. That'll restrict where the money would go.
Absolutely. Look, I don't like taxes any more than anybody else. I'm not against the idea of taxes. I am against the idea of kicking the can down the road on an ongoing manner. It's been going on for, frankly, too many years and decades. We are in the condition we are because we don't have the resources we need to provide the services we as a citizen and a community desire. That's really as simple as it gets for me. So the answer to your question is yes. I'm sorry for being long-winded.
Stephen, do you have any further questions?
No.
Okay, thank you. Barbara? You're on mute, Barbara.
Oh, there I go. Okay, I had to press a different button. Pardon my naivete, but how does the passage of the infrastructure bill affect all of this? Will we eventually be able to use some of those funds? I just heard on the news hour about the water disaster in Jackson, Mississippi, about how infrastructure monies have been allocated, and then the rich suburbs steal all the money, and Jackson, Mississippi, the poor cities don't get their fair share. Benny Thompson was really powerful about that. So could the same thing happen here? Could we get, countywide, the infrastructure money for things like roads, and then it be somehow magically disappear up county? Thank you.
I can't answer the question. I think it's a reasonable exploratory question without question, but I certainly don't have the answer to that.
Monica?
I can answer that.
Great.
In order to get infrastructure money, what you have to have is a shovel-ready project. And so it helps to have grant writers, which I keep pushing at the county for grant writers. But once you have the grant and you have the money, if you don't spend it as you have written it out, then the feds can come after you. So it shouldn't be taken. So, but the key is you have to have grant writers. And there is infrastructure money out there. The problem is, if I may, you have STA, Solano Transportation Authority, who's out there grabbing all the funds, guys. So we need to have grant writers, we need to have projects. And so I'm not sure what we're looking at. Is it just roads? Because infrastructure can be anything, like Barbara just stated with with the sewer system that's happening in the state of Mississippi. So, but that's what you have to do. You have to get grant writers, what project, and get the money out there. Same thing with broadband, same thing with anything. There's tons of money out there, but unless you get the grants, unless you have grant writers, then we're always going to lose out. So I know I've repeated myself, but that's my frustration at the county level, but that's also true at the city level.
Stephen?
I just wanted to add, I was recently at a meeting with Congressman Garamendi, a town hall meeting, or I'm not sure exactly, I'm actually not sure what it was, but it was a bunch of people around to talk about transportation, and they went over a lot of projects. But, you know, Barbara, to your point, to be quite frank, all that transportation money and all that infrastructure money has already been spoken for several times over. There's already about 10 different groups that want that same $1 million or whatever it is. So yeah, we definitely should try to get what we can, but let me tell you, there's a lot of other people and entities out there who want that money.
Through the chair, and it's interesting that you point that out. I appreciate that, Stephen, and I appreciate Barbara's question. The real thing that comes with that, while grants may be provided and might be accessed, if you have the grant writers, as Monica has shared, if you have the resources to acquire that money, it seems that the grant is a one-time allocation of funds. It could be a one-time allocation of $10 million. You just said $1 million. It could be a one-time allocation of $10 million. The proposal that's on the table relative to this particular tax is a sales tax. I don't know if there's a sunset in it. I don't recall that there was, but this is annualized revenue that could be counted on. The issue for me, the issue is the commitment of the city council to make sure that that annualized amount extracted from the total revenue from sales tax over the course of the year is allocated towards the towards use for specific projects such as potholes, the sewer system, etc. With 9 million, which arguably is $18 million a year in revenue, there can be positive forward momentum. I don't see how we can do it any other way. One-time allocations are like giving a kid $10, but you know they need $10 a week. It won't work.
Anyone else? Any more questions or comments? Calvin, I wanted to ask you, I'm not understanding the 9 million thing. So will you explain the 18 million, 9 million thing? Because I don't understand your scenario.
It's been projected that the revenue from this particular tax at the percentage that they're adding on would add, I think it was 18 or $19 million to the coffers.
How soon?
To be conservative, pardon me?
How soon?
That would be considered an annualized amount of money. Based on yearly annual sales tax revenue receipts, the sales tax will generate an additional $18 million. I took the, shall we say, a conservative approach and said, let's just go with 50% of that amount at 9 million. I can't possibly forecast that sales of anything will drop 50%. I also understand that while we're coming out of a pandemic, there's been a tremendous upsurge in the use of DoorDash and a variety of other types of services that people are more than willing to pay for, even those in those challenged communities. It's a very interesting puzzle. That said, let me segue to this. As the cost of goods and services are going up, including the goods and services we shop for in our stores, in our restaurants, etc. As they go up and the cost of those goods go up, there is an increase in sales tax from that percentage increase as well. So based on the projection is not, I don't believe that they're forecasting what the actual increase in the prices of goods and services is as we sit here today. They are probably projecting off of a year or 2 years ago what the revenue was from sales tax. So if we think about it, people are going to spend more money because the cost of goods and services are going up. That's just the nature of the beast, and therefore more sales tax is going to be generated. It might end up being $25 million for all we know. this is all, it's in the ether. There's no precision in calculating. So that's why I took the $9 million approach. But understand, everything is going up. We've got to figure out how to pay for everything that's going up.
Okay, I wanted to ask one more question. I understand oversight committees very well because we do that for our bond for the school district. But something Andrea said about this is going into the general fund. And when you have oversight committee, how do you make sure, since there's so many items in this to potentially the money go towards, how do you pinpoint? I'm having trouble understanding that myself, what Andrea's saying. Can you talk about that? Because that's vague for me as well. If it's a certain type of, like if it was just for roads, it would be just for roads. I would know, and I would see the results, and I would know exactly where the money, and if I'm on the oversight committee, I'd be able to say, okay, on this date, I saw this, I see next year you're doing this. So I would understand exactly what it's going to and for. But something Andrea brought up, I'm just confused with how would an oversight committee be able to pinpoint since it's so vague? I don't know, maybe I'm not coming across
The people that we elect to whatever office have a duty and a responsibility to monitor and carry out the will of the people and to hold staffers, employees accountable. I find that it's our form of government creates a challenge in moving the city forward. It seems to me that the directive that would come from city council would be that they would receive a itemized report of the amount of money that the increase is going to generate or has generated. And remember, we're looking out over a year before we see that revenue as income. So I believe that it would be up to the city council to state that we want an itemized report for this money. We want it separated, perhaps even while it's a general fund, it's into a separate account. And we want to know exactly how these funds are being expended. And I think that's a directive that's pretty damn easy to force or to demand and easy to implement. So it can be a shell game within the halls of the city where they try to hide or do this or that. But if the council is strong enough to make the statement that, no, this is what we're directing you to do. And quite candidly, if you can't do it, we'll find someone that can. We're not an employment agency. If you don't do the job, just like the real world, you're going to lose your job. This is what we require. And that's the end of the conversation. I don't understand all the back and forth, quite honestly, trying to soothe people or be the nice person. I'm a nice guy. You've known me a long time, John. I'm a real nice guy. But when it comes right down to it, I understand the buck has to stop somewhere and the law has to be laid down somewhere. And that's really the council's responsibility.
Okay, and I see Paula's hand. I just want to respond to what you just said. So for me, I hold people accountable too. But since there's so many items in this, I just would want, I'm trying to think how, so the money comes in and I guess then they would have to apportion what goes to the roads. Then they would have to apportion what goes to fire. Or they'd have to apportion what goes to which items that are listed within to dedicate it, I guess, the most need at that time. But I can't foresee that, but I'm definitely for accountability. Absolutely. And that money must be accountable, especially our tax dollars. So I just wanted to bring that up for general discussion, but I see Paula's hand, so I want to be respectful and have her contribute too. Thank you, Absolutely. Paula.
Well, so I guess my question is, so what you just described, Calvin, is not actually in this bill. It's not in the measure. Sure. So this money is going into the general fund. It's not specified that it has to be spent for roads, correct?
I know it is not specified that it has to be spent for roads. However, it would make people more comfortable if it was specific to a specific allocation at this stage. What I'm suggesting is that the allocation can take place after the revenue is in place. And just as Monica suggested, money's available for shovel-ready projects. Right now, we don't have a shovel-ready project to understand what are the costs of per 100 feet of roadway to repave it. What's that cost? How much money of this $18 million that we just generated can be allocated to it? If there's an oversight committee, that committee has to have teeth. And while they've spelled out the oversight committee, the council is the council are our elected representatives that should be able to push that ball the direction it needs to go, so that that oversight committee can say, this is where we would like the funds to be expended. This is separate and apart. Everything is in the, for lack of a better way of thinking about it, everything's in the piggy bank, the general fund, everything. And then you apportion stuff out of it. That's just the nature of, perhaps our whole team. They're the big bank, and then we put some aside for this and some aside for that and some aside for the other. And then when we get a windfall, we figure out, okay, how are we going to use this windfall? Well, we do need to fix the roof on the house. Let's go ahead and get ahead of this now.
But none of that is in the bill, correct?
The bill is only to increase the sales tax and to have an oversight committee.
Okay.
I'm very clear with that, and I can't disagree with you. That is not a part of the language of the legislation or the bill.
Else to close this one up? Any final comment or question?
Ongoing revenue as opposed to one-time revenue. There's a big difference. A grant is one time. Looking for a grant is a challenge already, but this is an ongoing revenue situation that would provide sustainability. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And I think now it's time we're moving on to our next speaker, which would be Carrie. Carrie Birdseye, please.
Hi there. Good evening, everyone. Thank
Good
you
evening,
for
Carrie.
allowing me to address you. My name's Carrie Birdseye. I'm running for Benicia City Council, and I did so in 2018 as well, and I got the endorsement of this wonderful organization then, and I'm hoping that you vote for me this evening or whenever you guys have the vote, because I would value your endorsement and wear it proudly. The reason why I'm running for city council is, well, I want to be a transparent, empathetic neighbor at City Hall, and that's how I feel I would lead. My priorities would be diversifying our tax base. As California ramps down its use of fossil fuels, Valero could be the last refinery standing in Northern California, but our future needs to change and move away from fossil fuel, and so we have to figure out how to live with a less affluent neighbor in Valero and plan for them to shut down decade, 2 decades, 50 years from now. What would that do to Benicia when they're contributing over 1/3 of our tax base right now? So we have to diversify the type of businesses we have in town. We have to ensure that we have a sustainable economic model moving forward. So that's my first priority. Second priority, I've heard already talked, I think George and others have talked about this, access to clean water and clean air. We need to ensure that we have healthy infrastructure. We're a full service, tiny town. We have our own water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant. We have to ensure that all Beniциans, no matter what their income level, we all have access to clean water. And that means being diligent in ensuring that we have a safe infrastructure. Access to clean air, that means we need to understand what's in our air. With a refinery as a neighbor, we often don't know what's in our air. And so expanding our air quality monitoring system throughout our community is also a priority for me. And then lastly, where I started, just being available, not being beholden to any certain people, but just having an open mind, doing my homework on the issues that are before the or before the city council, and ensuring that I'm listening to all parties involved. And I've done that the past 7 years as a planning commissioner in Benicia. I don't go to a hearing with my mind made up. I study, I know all the facts, I listen to our community members, and then I make a decision. And I plan to do the same thing as a city council person. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to answering any questions you may have.
Okay, I'm back. Thanks, John. So does anyone have any questions for Carrie? Come on, folks, don't be shy. Paula?
So I was just in Benicia today having lunch, and one of the store owners / artists that we talked to was talking about how the city is looking at taking away a bunch of your parking downtown and how that will just destroy her business. Can you comment on that? Is there such a proposal out there?
Well, you know, there's an upcoming a parking survey that's before the city council has made a priority. We're looking forward to the results of that. But not too long ago, I would say 2018 or 19, we had a parking survey, and it was parking survey completed by consultants. And what it showed is there's ample parking available downtown. Our parklets that we've created for restaurants on First Street have bitten into that a little bit, but the side streets have more than enough parking for our traffic downtown. Granted, when we have special events like the 3rd of July Torchlight Parade or you know, other events downtown, parking, you have to walk a little farther. But there's but what there is a whisper campaign going on, especially with businesses downtown, that if the city of Benicia takes a lot off of East E Street, which is owned by the city and is temporary parking for events only. We open up that parking lot only for special events right now. If we take that parcel and build senior housing, mixed use housing on it, that, you know, we're taking away all the parking downtown. And I say that any development we do on that East Street parking lot right now will have parking available. It might not have as many spaces as it does now, but it's not going to completely take parking away from the general public downtown. So in the years that I've been on the planning commission, this has always, you know, been an issue. We've studied it over and over. Yes, you might have to walk a little farther because you don't get to park right in front of your business, but studies have shown, and we'll probably see in this upcoming survey, that there is ample parking if you can walk a block or a block and a half. So I support development on that East Street parking space or lot right now, but with parking that can serve the general public.
Monica?
So I just want to tag in. I would respectfully disagree. I have no idea why I keep losing you guys on my new computer here, but anyway, because I think that there isn't enough parking, even when that is always available. But I think you guys need to look at, with that ice melting, what might happen with, I don't know how far up King Tides come in your neck of the woods, but I really think that needs to be something that needs to be looked at when you're looking at parking, because the green area down there, a lot of that's going to be underwater, if I may. So, but but I can get around right now, which is always good because I like causing, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to figure out how to get back. So anyway, that was my 2 cents. Thanks, Carrie.
Yeah, thank you, Supervisor Brown. I think, yes, the king tides come up on our Marina Green right now, and it's only going to get worse. And so that's why that is a smart buffer. We haven't developed that area for good reason, and we shouldn't develop that area. But that E Street lot is up a couple blocks, and it's already experiencing saltwater intrusion into our groundwater at that location. But there is technology that can bring underground parking. You guys did it across in Vallejo, across the street from the ferry terminal when you dug into that very shallow water table. Yes, it was done retroactively, but some pumps aren't new technology. There's companies that can help us do underwater or underground parking and ensure that it's safe and water free from the very beginning.
I hear you. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, we can
Very
hear you.
much so.
Okay,
Yes.
because I'm not, I just,
And
oh.
we can see you as well.
Oh, you can? Okay, well, I
Yeah.
don't even see that. Who
Okay.
knows what I've got. Okay. Thank you,
Okay.
Carrie. Thank you, everybody.
So any more questions for candidate Birdseye? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Tom. Thanks for allowing me to present my priorities this evening. And I really hope I get Stonewall's endorsement. It means a lot.
Well, thank you for being a member as well. Okay, so Monica, I sent you a chat asking if you wanted to speak to. Oh, hello, dog.
Oh, I thought that chat said that you wanted to speak, but I can speak on Measure E. I think that John asked me, if that's okay with you.
Yes.
Okay.
And then we'll. So actually, I'm gonna go ahead and have Melissa Bowman, who's joined us, speak, and then we'll wrap up with you. Is that okay?
Okay. No problema.
Okay.
All right, Melissa, you're on.
Yeah. Hi, good evening. So I am well, the season has started, hasn't it? So I did want to remind everyone that I have many years of experience serving our great city of Vallejo. I'm currently a City of Vallejo planning commissioner. And then before that, I was the vice chair of the Architectural Heritage and Landmarks Commission. I live in a historical house, and I really respect preservation. I'm the district librarian for Vallejo City Unified School District, and I really believe that our current and future development of Vallejo should prioritize people. While I have been serving on the Planning Commission, one of our big achievements was to revise the zoning code. And this is allowed for higher density housing, which is, and please equate that with more affordable. And it's also actually streamlined the process for businesses to open. There's less of a need for major permits and more possibilities for minor permits, so that your let's see, minor permits. Yeah, so those only have to be approved by city staff, and they don't have to go through the formal procedure that a major approval does. So what that means is pubs and restaurants and that kind of thing is only can stay open till midnight without a major use permit. If it goes past that, then they can do that. Okay, and then while I was on the vice chair, one of the things that we did was while I was making during my time on the Architectural Heritage and Landmarks Commission was making the reuse of the historic core on Mare Island a reality. And so, you know, that doing those projects let me really see that the best use of an older building is to reuse it. It's the greenest use that it's the greenest thing that we can do for our historical buildings. I'm the district librarian for Vallejo schools. If there is a textbook issue, the buck stops with me. So I take this job very seriously, the education of our youth very seriously. And every child has to have a book. Every child has to have their textbooks, and I make sure nobody falls through the cracks. And this experience, you know, these kinds of experiences are the things that I will do for Vallejo. I'm going to pull on that experience. So other volunteer work that I've done in our community is I was on the board of directors for Loma Vista Farm. And and I was there for the first phase of the new housing for the animals. And I also volunteered for the Empress Theater, assisting with ticket sales and other tasks. I have a small business, Melissa Bowman Music LLC, and I'm a member of the Solano Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Any questions for Melissa? Paula?
Yeah, hi, Melissa. What is your position on Measure P?
Well, I've been enthusiastic about it, but it has been pointed out to me that that the issue is that there's not enough accountability written into that proposal. And while I personally don't have a problem with being charged sales tax, it does go into the general fund, and there's no formal monitoring of it. So if that can be reshaped so that we have monitoring, then we can get those much needed funds. And certainly we need those, as the title implies. We need those for our roads, and we need those funds for our services. So if the voters decide that that's what they want, and I certainly will make sure that I'm a good steward of those funds and make sure it goes directly to what it is intended.
Barbara?
Hi, I'll try to be quick, but two of my big pet issues, I live in District 5, so I'm thrilled to meet you. And I've only met two other ones so far. Can't wait to hear more from all of you. And but my big issues is, of course, homeless and senior issues. Not enough is going on about the silver tsunami, the doubling of seniors, and how we can't afford those senior retirement communities anymore. So I've been trying to push ADUs, but people can stay in their homes, and it also helps with the housing crises. But I tried it, and it was just a nightmare trying to get connected to the sewer system, and I finally threw up my arms. So, and I keep going up to Napa County, and I see these in American Candy's huge housing developments, and I don't understand why we're not seeing more of it, especially infill in Vallejo. So what are your thoughts on that?
So,
thank you.
Yeah, I am so glad that you asked that, because part of the work with the zoning codes of the Planning Commission was to lift the restrictions that that were inhibiting that kind of growth before. So you're going to see on Sonoma Boulevard that those kinds of things are now allowed. A lot of the wasted space, if for parking lots where people do not, where people aren't even parking. You know, it's like you have 100 spaces for 10 people in a strip mall. We can put that land to better use, and better use is affordable housing units. I want to see those throughout our city. I don't want them concentrated in one place. You know, it needs to be, it keeps the city interesting, you know? What have we learned from Jane Jacobs? It's like, yeah, you have an older, you have a newer, you have a remodel, you have a variety of single versus multi-family. And, that's how we create community. And our transportation, the Soul Trans, I want to keep a close eye on that and make sure that it's picking up where the people are and dropping them off in the places they need to be. Our sidewalks need to be wide enough to accommodate mobility devices. I've walked down our streets, and there are times when I've seen, for example, a grandma, and she's in her mobility scooter and she's got her grandbaby up against her chest. No one has a helmet. They're going in the street against traffic, busy traffic on Tennessee Street, mind you. And that's just wrong. And we see these kinds of scenarios throughout our city, and I want that to change immediately.
Okay, any more questions? All right, well, thank you very much for joining us, Melissa.
Thank you for having me and letting me speak. I really appreciate
problem.
the time.
Thank you. All right, Monica, you're up for Measure E.
Measure E. So, as I've stated the last couple times, Reader's Digest version, I have 4 fire districts in the unincorporated areas: Cordelia, Montezuma, Sassoon, and one more that I forgot to look at, my bad. We don't generate enough money. There's not enough money coming in. This is a 1/8%. For those of you who like decimals, 0.125. We hope to generate about 9 million a year. We want to take about 5-6 million, have a long-term bond, very similar to what Mayor Young was talking about with what they're thinking of doing. Our goal is to work with the unincorporated, and the example that I've given and will continue to give is Glen Cove with their fire station, and Homemakers, 3 or 4 football fields away, that we have to work together. So all the fire chiefs in Solano County, all of the police chiefs in Solano County are willing to work together to have one communication system. So, and because you guys know in Vallejo, there are not enough 911 operators. So if we can have one general system, hopefully we can work on that. So some of the money will go there. Oversight right now is the 5 members of the Board of Supervisors. I'll share with you right now, if I find out that we're not doing what I am promising you, I will lead the charge for us to put it on the ballot and undo it, because I will not tolerate that at all. So there's good things, guys. Fires are not going away, and we need help. So hopefully working together and get out of our silos. So I promise you, I will do everything within my power to make sure the money goes where it needs to go. And if it does not, I definitely will be ringing the bell and letting you guys know, and we will go get whatever it is with signatures we get, and we will undo this. So if you kind of trust me a little bit, can you please vote yes on E? Okay. Thanks,
Okay.
guys.
Any questions for Monica? Okay. Looks like you get off easy, Monica. I guess.
Yeah, mark it down.
All right, we'll continue on now with the rest of our program and hopefully wrap up and get out of here. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm done. So let me share back the Oh, come on, Zoom.
Are we approving the minutes now?
Yes, if we could
I'll
move
make a
on to the
motion.
minutes.
Yes, okay, so,
Okay, so John made the motion.
okay,
All right,
I'll second it. This is Paula.
thank you.
thank you, Paula. All
Any,
in favor? So how
yeah.
about we do this? Anyone who votes no.
well,
I
any-
have to abstain because I wasn't here for last
Okay.
month.
One
Noted.
abstention. So we're gonna say yes, Anna?
Yes.
me?
Yeah.
Oh,
Wait, there's the
I'm
other
sorry.
Anna.
Anna.
Abstention as well, since I wasn't here. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay. All right.
anyone
Okay,
else abstaining or saying nay?
okay,
Okay,
there we go.
passes, okay.
All right. I see we are joined by Jack Flynn. Jack, we'll get to you after our bit of business, okay?
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining us. All right, so real quick on endorsements. There's actually reports. Let's skipped over that. John, do you have anything to report?
Just that we had a school board meeting tonight and we were going over continuing with our strategic plan. Other than that, starting off the school year, unfortunately, there's a number of positions open everywhere, but we're working hard to get all those filled. I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Joseph?
I don't have anything to report, no.
Okay. I just have to report I had COVID a couple of weeks back and I'm still recovering, so bear with me. It's not a fun thing. All right, moving on to old business. We did not set a date for candidates to get back their word I'm looking for, questionnaires. I am proposing that we do this for the 7th, give them a week for anyone who has not finished the questionnaires. Does anyone want to make that motion, or I guess I'll make it. Oh, no, actually the chair shouldn't make it.
I move that we give candidates and ballot measure representatives until September 7, 5 o'clock to turn in their questionnaires.
Supervisor Brown seconds it.
All right, all in favor?
Is there
Aye.
discussion? Is there discussion?
Yes, go ahead, discussion.
Well, the longer you wait, the less we can use your endorsement. So if that's the fastest you can do it, that's great. But I would
You can do
propose
5 days, but the maker of the motion, would you accept a 5-day?
Sure.
That'll be Monday. And then that would allow us to have a final vote for an announcement of ballots, the final endorsements for the Friday.
So if it's 5 days instead of, so Monday is not the 5th. Let's see, what is that?
That is.
Oh, it isn't?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, so the 5th at 5 PM?
Yep.
And then the results will
Labor
be on
Day
the-
weekend, it's a vacation day.
Yeah,
Not for a candidate.
it's also a day to get paperwork done.
Did you say the results
Okay.
then would be on Friday the 9th?
Actually, the 10th, because we have
Saturday
in
the
our
10th.
bylaws, it says that we have to give 5 days to vote.
all right, so the vote, do we want to vote as amended or is there further discussion?
Actually, Monica, do you accept the amended?
Yeah, the maker did. I's the second. I can, yes, no problem to have it due on Monday, September 5th at 5 PM.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Okay.
I don't know if I should because I'm part of the,
You're a member.
you can vote
It
for
doesn't matter.
yourself.
You get to vote.
all right,
Yeah.
yes, I.
Members get to vote.
Gosh, if
Any,
you don't trust yourself, John, why should we vote for you?
so any
I didn't know if I should
abstentions
abstain.
or nays?
Burn. All right, and then the ballots will go out shortly after that, along with the candidate and guide for that. So we would be voting from the 6th until the 10th and announcing on the 10th.
Is 5 p.m. the drop dead date on Saturday, the 10th?
Yep.
Okay.
Does anyone want to make that motion?
I move that we vote, and the voting starts on Tuesday, the 6th, ends at 5 p.m. on Saturday, the 10th.
Second, Patero.
Okay.
All right.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
All right. There we go. Done. So you'll be getting a.
Okay, sorry. So it starts Tuesday, the 6th of September, ends at 5 p.m. on the 10th. I think
Yep.
I heard.
Yeah.
Yes, that
Okay.
is correct.
Okay.
Miguel, was your hand up?
No. Not
All
deliberately.
right. That covers our old business and whatnot. So if you have any items for future agenda, let us know. Jack, I'm gonna have you speak during announcements. Just one thing to note that there is a VGM potluck on the 10th. That Joseph and Shando are hosting 12 p.m. until 6 p.m. Funky disco, so bring on your bling. And there's other stuff that's in our thing. Also, Solano Pride is hosting monkeypox vaccination clinics. So if you need that, get a shot. Okay, Jack.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I want to first of all thank everyone for coming out tonight to the Stonewall Club meeting. I really appreciate everyone taking the time to listen to me. For the Sassoon Unified School District Governing Board, I recently got the endorsement of the Solano County Democratic Central Committee, and the vote was 26-1. So I am now the endorsed candidate of the county party. I'm proud to be endorsed by so many of our local leaders, including many in this room, like Anna Patero, our FSUSC board member, like Steve Young, who is our mayor of Benicia, Carrie Birdseye, who is the chair of the Benicia Planning Commission, and so many more. I'm also been endorsed by Fairfield Sassoon Unified Teachers Association and now the Napa Solano Central Labor Council. So I'm really excited about this campaign. We're just we're getting really close to election day. So I would really be appreciative of the Stonewall Club. Something I think is important for the members to know is back in June, Tom, Sarah, and me and a few other people were at the FSUSC board meeting, the one I'm running for. And we were asking the board to pass a pride proclamation and also asking them to fly the pride flag. And what that means is that really, you know me, you know you can count on me. You know that I'm going to be there on the front lines fighting for the LGBTQIA plus community. I'm going to support the community by making sure that we have the pride flag. Personally, I would love to do it not just during June, but all year round. However, I will definitely take June. But I will definitely push for all year round on the board. And right now it's something the district administration has not been supportive of. I will also make sure that we invest in mental health because we need our kids to have good access to mental health resources. We need to make sure that counselors and nurses and librarians are available at every single school. We need to invest in our teachers. We need to invest in our classified employees. There's so many issues that need to be done. And I'm really excited to be running for this board to have that true blue Democrat. In comparison, my opponent supports charter schools, voted to censure Anna Patero, and supports school vouchers. So there's a very, very clear choice in this election about who is the real Democrat, who is going to fight for the LGBTQ plus community, who's going to support teachers. And I would be honored to earn the Stonewall Club's vote. If you have any questions for me, I always make myself accessible. I'll make sure to drop my phone number and email in the chat. I always try to make sure anyone can contact me if they have any questions or comments for me. So thank you so much for your time, and I'd be honored to earn your endorsement vote. Thank you so much.
Okay, any questions for Jack real quick? I'll ask one. Are you going to be the youngest elected official in California?
I believe so, actually. I know that there's a couple of electeds around the country who are 18, but I've done my research. I cannot find an elected official who is 18 in California. I know that there are some in their 20s. But I think I'm definitely going to be the youngest elected official in the county, probably the state of California. So, and I think that matters because if you think about it, I am going to be the only elected official in the county who was born in the 21st century. So there is so much, especially when we talk about technology and investing in our youth, that you need to have that young voice at the table. You need to have that young Democrat voice at the table.
Okay, I feel very, very seen. Thank you for that. Calling out my age. So anyway, and Jack, what's your first thing you want to do or start to work on whenever you go into office?
So there's a few things I want to begin. A lot of our budgetary things, they take time, unfortunately. When we talk about budget, when we talk about increasing teacher compensation, when we talk about class size, those are things that unfortunately will take time. But there are things that we can do on day one. Like, for instance, when it comes to the resolution to fly the pride flag, there's no reason I can't introduce that resolution on day one. There's no reason I'm very confident I could get a second from Board Member Patera on that resolution. So I would be very, I think that's something that we could do on day one, even though Pride Month is not till June. Even if we just pass the resolution to fly the pride flag, then we could be all prepared. And again, I would really like to author the language so that the pride flag is being flown all year round, because, it's not just a June issue. It's not just that we have LGBTQ kids during June and then the rest of the year they're not there. We need to support them the whole year. And again, I'm very supportive of Pride Month, but I'd love to see it there the whole year. This is an issue that is not just you show up in June and then you wait for next June. We need to have this support and our resources available all year. Another policy I'd like to introduce is a Stop Asian Hate policy. Last year, when we had a very appalling rise in anti-Asian hate crimes, we had APAPA and the Asian American community come to our board and they asked, can you please pass a Stop Asian Hate resolution? In comparison, my opponent authored an All Lives Matter resolution. It passed the board and it did not include the word Asian in there once. It did not include API in there once. And the Asian American community, our area, was very distressed to see that as the response to a very real, appalling crisis. So I would fix the problem and by introducing a real Stop Asian Hate resolution, not an All Lives Matter, we condemn all hate from anyone to anyone proclamation, which really didn't address the needs. So those are two things I can do on day one, but then I want to say I'm 100% committed to the longer budgetary needs of our district.
Okay. Monica?
So my only thought is, Jack, your demographics, when you say like you're the youngest one and this, that, and the other, just saying that the folks, because I would always tell my kids that if all 18-year-olds voted, you guys could rule the world. But we know that's not true. So it's cool here with friends because we've known you since, you were, a little bit out of diapers, just teasing. But so just kind of think about it. Okay, just kind of think about it. The other is that if you're going to be doing the resolutions, I really would like to see that you have some sort of an educational component or some sort of something that goes along with that. And I know Ms. Patero and I have talked about something that we want to work on. So you get elected, and I don't know, Anna, we might include him. We'll have to think about it.
Thank you. And I'll say to that, Monica, first point being about my age, and I obviously am going to tailor my message to each voter when I'm on the door and on the phone. So obviously, if I'm talking to, say, a 75-year-old, possibly conservative voter, I may not bring that up, but in fact, actually, it's probably not going to be in my age is not going to be on the ballot anywhere. I actually chose not to include it in the ballot statement because I thought it might be a turnoff to some people. Obviously, there are going to be some younger voters who like it, But the fact is that most voters are predominantly older, predominantly that there is some skepticism there. So I thought it'd be best just to leave my age off the ballot and just target that towards groups like, say, young Democrats and college kids that would see that as a positive.
I get it, Jack. I'm just saying, because you're still kind of a rookie, even though you've walked precincts. It's different when you're promoting yourself. That's all I was saying.
I'll tell you, Monica, you're 100% right, because I've been involved for 6 years, and at the start of this campaign, I did think to myself, oh, I've done everything. I've got down. But one thing I've learned is campaign management is very different than campaign volunteering. And there's been a couple of, bumps on the road, but I think I have learned some very valuable insights into campaign management from this experience, and it really was a learning experience. And then what you also said about the educational piece of the resolutions, I absolutely in support of that. We are actually going to have, because of a bill the governor signed, a mandatory one semester mandatory of ethnic studies as a high school graduation requirement.
Right.
Now, it won't come for some time. Currently, the kids who that would apply to are still in elementary school. But what we can do is be prepared for that and make sure that we are working with the state to develop that curriculum, working with FSUDA, working with our teachers. And what we don't need is when we have a current superintendent who has a very, very adversarial relationship with our teachers, who many teachers do not see her as a friend, and she does not see teachers as a friend. You don't want that type of relationship when you're about to be developing a curriculum for a new mandatory class. So that's why you want that governing board member who's able to be collaborative, who's also able to hold the Superintendent Chris Corey, accountable for her actions. And that's what you really want. And I think when it comes to education, I want more education when it comes to both API History Month, when it comes to Black and Indigenous history, when it also comes to LGBTQIA history. Often in the past, what we've seen with history is you often saw it from the winners, from a predominantly white upper class point of view.
I'm sorry I went and asked the question because I'm looking at the time, Jack.
Don't worry, and I'll just wrap it up by saying that what I want to do with education is be able to have a diverse group of voices heard when we talk about history, and be able to look at what we did wrong as well.
Okay, that's a good ending. Thank you, guys.
So there you have it, folks. Anyone else have any announcements? Thank you, Jack.
I do, Tom, but I just want to confirm, as secretary here, there was nothing listed under future agenda items, correct?
No, that's just to let people know where to send
Okay.
them.
Okay, understood. So I can go. The Humane Society is the beneficiary of an event at the Vallejo Yacht Club on Saturday. I know it's going to be hot, but it's called the Hot Rod Barbecue event. It's put on by, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting now, a Benicia organization, I believe. So if you want any more information, I'll put my information in the chat and you can ask me about it. That's happening Saturday, September 3rd.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Anyone else got any announcements? Okay. With that, I'll just wrap up one thing. I don't know if you guys know, but Jack Flynn has been working with the Democratic Party since he was, how old were you? Like 12?
It's 12. So actually, the reason why that matters is I was actually too young for the Young Democrats, because the minimum wage was 14. I started at 12. So,
So this is one of the most well-informed and well-spoken men that I have met. And you're looking at a future president, probably. So let's remember that. Okay, so you saw him here first. All right, so our next meeting is September 15th. 2022 at 7 p.m. Same bat time, same bat channel. And I am logging off. We're done. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Oh, Anna, did you raise your hand for something?
No, Tom, I was waving at you.
Oh, okay. Do you second that motion to adjourn?
Anna?
Say yes, Anna. Yeah, second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Be
Stay
well.
safe.
Yeah.
All right. Good night, John
Good night,
Boy. Good
guys.
night, Mary Ellen.
Yeah, exactly. Good one.